guys, today I am here to talk about wells. No, not water wells. Wells. The man in the red bandana. The Man in the Red Bandana is a 2013 9/11 story. It goes over the topic of Wells. Wells was a person, and from a young age, Wells loved the fire department. He loved the idea of becoming a firefighter. He loved it. He couldn't get over the fathom. It was basically an unfathomable desire that he had, becoming a firefighter. So at the age of 3, he got a little red fire truck. And as it says on many Wikipedia and obituary articles, it says Wells was obsessed with this little red fire truck. At the age of 3, he got that fire truck. At the age of 7 years old, Wells would get a red bandana. 1 second here. What led up to the event was they were getting ready for, as far as I know, church. He saw his father carrying a blue bandana. And Wells, loving to be like his dad, would take the bandana to go along. Wells had 2 sisters, which names I will not put out of respect for them, and parents' names that I will not put out as respect for them too. I have read the books. There's some crazy things. You should go read it. But anyways, back to the story. So Wells, at the age of 7, would get this bandana from his dad as a kind of gift from him to Wells. Not Wells, but doesn't get enough representation. Wells took this bandana and he would use it for everything. He'd play cowboys, he'd play flipping sports, cars, derbies, stuff like that. At the age of 16, as soon as physically possible, Wells would join the New York City Fire Department for guests. Well, he wasn't really a guest, but he was a volunteer firefighter. There's some photos online that I'm gonna plaster up on the screen real quick, but good God, my editing self is gonna have a lot of work to do. But I'm gonna plaster some photos up here, if you can see them, of Wells in his uniform for uniform inspection day at the age of 19. He would work until the year 1999, where he would move to the office building inside of this, I think it was the South Tower. I'm not an information guy, I am a human. But anyways, he would work on this building until he'd worked for 3 years. He died in that tower, which I will get to in a minute. But Wells also he would work on the 104th floor of the World Trade Centers in New York City. If it was a rainy day, he would actually, this is kind of funny, but he would call his dad, and he would tell him, he would ask him, hey, is it raining down there? He agreed. He would say, well, skies are all clear up here. He would work on the highest floor of the building. But unfortunately, just a year later, that would all change forever. Wells would be in his office square on the South Tower on September 11th, 2001. The first plane struck the North Tower at 8. After the first plane struck on 8:46 a.m., the first tower would be hit. The North Tower would be hit with the first plane, hitting a devastating blow, taking out floors, I think it was 99 to 79. And if it wasn't that, I apologize. But it took around those estimates. I can estimate that it would take around 10 minutes for them to even realize that that plane was hitting or coming towards that tower, the North Tower. The North Tower was different in ways than the South Tower. The South Tower would have the South Tower did not have a big antenna on it. That's how many people separate the two towers, or you can see the difference. One has a great big huge antenna, and the other one has tiny little ones. But besides that, back to Wells. Wells had a challenge. Save just himself or others, and he picked the latter. As Wells moved towards to see what happened on the North Tower, he was standing on the 104th floor still of the South Tower. Because at 8:46 a.m., when the plane struck, Wells was immediately alerted to the window. As Wells looked out the window to see that tower burning, a giant ball of fire, he knew it was time. As many people thought it was an accident at the time, a horrible accident. Before the tower that Wells was standing in was struck, a second plane had hit the South Tower. The tower was struck. Wells would not make it out of that tower alive, but he would save 18 people's lives. He ran down the stairwell to floors 77 and 85 were struck on the South Tower, where, and I'm going to correct myself, on the North Tower, floors 93 and 99 were struck. Wells was not going to make it to the second tower, and he knew that. He would run down flights of stairs, came to the room where the wreckage happened. He would go and he would direct bunches of people, more than a dozen and a half people, out of that door. He would be screaming and yelling, "I found the stairways, I found the stairs, follow me." But then one turn of his head, and he saw a lady sitting in a chair in shock. Now, going back to the fire department training part, Wells was actually a volunteer firefighter and worked with real fires. That is not a joke. He would fight real fires. Wells knew how to do it. He would take these 18 people down to safety. There was people stuck behind the corridor, but he knew he would need the claw of life, or the jaws of life, as some may call it, to pry open the door. He would run back up, never to return back down the flight of stairs. As the North Tower crumbled, so did the South. They both crumbled. Now, that didn't stop the Pentagon from being hit, and that didn't stop the field in Pennsylvania to have a plane stuck in it. But it did save 18 lives, and I think that's all that matters. Have a good day. To a new toast.